Hey guys, happy Monday. So let's get the elephant out of the room real quick. I did cut my hair. Is it just a thing that every YouTuber needs to point out when there's an obvious change about their appearance? I feel like it is, but I wanted to tell you because when I say that I cut my hair, I literally cut my own hair. I got back from the gym last night and I showered and I decided I was just over my hair and I took some kitchen scissors and chopped it off. This is the end result of that mission. Luckily, I think it looks kind of cute, but this is not a professional haircut. Nobody at Supercuts took a whack at my hair. This was just Eshani with absolutely no hairstylist training, no cosmetology license. I just went in like the YOLO moment of the century. Anyways, that has nothing to do with today's video. Today we are going to be talking about the brand new Huda Beauty Nude eyeshadow palettes. She came out with 3 of them. There's a nude light, a nude medium, and a nude rich. I feel like this video might come out of left field for some people because I do say on my channel that I don't need any more neutral eyeshadow. And while that is an absolute fact, nobody can dispute that. When a new nude eyeshadow palette comes out, like Huda Beauty's new nude eyeshadow palette that came out, I still looked at it, I still swatched it, and I still bought it. And that tends to be the issue. If there is a nude eyeshadow palette that comes out that I feel like does a unique twist on neutral shadows, or there are colors in there or finishes in there that I don't feel like I already have, I'll probably buy it. So that is the reason I purchased these 3 palettes. I know I didn't need to justify it to you guys. I feel like I said that whole thing just to justify it to myself. This video is just gonna be a classic review video of mine. We're gonna go through each of those 3 palettes. I'm gonna do swatches. We'll talk about the product breakdown. So let's jump right into the fun stuff. As you would expect, there are 3 nude eyeshadow palettes that Huda came out with. In terms of the outer packaging, they come in a plastic packaging, and then the front of them has this, it's almost like this mattified faux leather croc looking panel here. And then of course the other shades coordinate accordingly. I quite like the packaging. I know plastic palette packaging isn't the most eco-friendly in general. Cardboard tends to be the preferred, but I still think it's pretty. They did a good job. Each of these mini nude palettes retails for $29 and you get 9 eyeshadows inside. If you're familiar with these Huda Beauty 9pan eyeshadow palettes, then you know that most of them have a mix of textures. They're always laid out in this really nice, very small, slim, sleek, compact design. That makes these palettes absolutely ideal for traveling. The ones that I already have, I do tend to throw in my travel makeup bag just because they don't take up a lot of room. You're getting a nice variety of shadows, and most of the palettes, at least the ones that I have, can give you full looks just using the colors within that palette. And in my opinion, all 3 of these palettes can give you a very well-rounded, well-balanced eye look just using a single palette because they all have mattes, they all have shimmers, and I think the colors are very appropriate. So here's a close-up look at the Huda Beauty Light Nude Obsessions palette here. You can see the color layout, and here are the swatches of the palette. All of these palettes do not actually label the color names, but these are all 9 of the swatches across my arm. You can see this palette has 4 shimmers and 5 mattes, a really well balanced array of colors. You're getting light matte colors and dark matte colors and lots of mid-tone shimmery shades as well. So this is a gorgeous palette. Next up, taking a look at the Medium Nude Obsessions palette here. You can see the actual color layout of this one. Obviously a lot darker. The lighter shades aren't going quite as light, and these tend to lean a little bit warmer, which you can probably see here in the swatches as well. There's a little bit more red tones or orangey tones in a lot of those browns, both shimmer and matte. And in this palette, you are also getting 4 shimmers and 5 matte shades. You're not getting a really light matte color, which doesn't completely bother me, but I know some people like using a light brow bone shade. And then finally, taking a look at the Huda Beauty Rich Nude Obsession Sessions. This one seems to lean a little bit more berry toned. I don't know if that's just because of the color of packaging that it's in that I'm seeing that, but these colors feel like they lean a little pinker, a little more purple. You can see that here in the swatches. There are just some more berry, pinky, plummy tones in this palette that I think would complement a rich skin tone so well. Again, this palette has 4 shimmers and 5 mattes. I like that there's a nice balance of shimmer and matte. Let's go ahead and jump into talking about the textures of the shadows in these palettes. You might have been able to tell there are only 2 textures of shadow. You have the matte finish, and then you have what I'm gonna call the foiled finish. I'm calling it foiled and not shimmer because the foileds are very, very, very metallic. Some of them have a really interesting, unique duochrome finish to them. All of them almost feel like a cream when you put your finger in the pan. There's definitely a lot of silicone in this formula. That's what's kind of giving it that blinding foiled effect and giving it that super rich, creamy feel. I will say that those foiled shadows are absolutely best to use with your finger. I feel like when you put your finger in them and you kind of swipe them on your eyes, that's when you're gonna get the most pigment transfer and the least amount of fallout. And then as far as the mattes that are in all these palettes, the mattes are really, really nice. Very pigmented across the board. I really didn't have any issues blending any of them. They were powdery, but not compared to like an Anastasia powder shadow. Like those are even more powdery. So while these are powdery, they're not unmanageable by any means. The pigment that they deposit is so nice and the blending on them is so effortless. Oh man, I really like these palettes. I kind of hate to be the person to come on here and be like, you guys, look at these neutral eyeshadow palettes because this hasn't been done before. But the idea of coming out with 3 different sets of neutral shadows, each geared towards a skin tone, I haven't seen this before. And this is not just an awesome idea, but it was actually executed very, very well. So props to Huda. You guys know I give credit where credit is due, and I think these are really, really nice palettes. Okay, let me go ahead and do some side-by-sides of those palettes next to the new Nude palette. This was a palette that I really underestimated when it first came out, and then I ended up purchasing it, trying it, absolutely loving it, doing a review video on it, speaking very, very highly about it. And still to this day, it's a palette that I reach for a lot. It's a really, really good one. When I first saw these nude palettes come out, I thought, how different could they actually be from this set of nudes? And I will say that they are relatively different. The closest palette that I do feel like has some color overlap is gonna be the Nude Light palette. So here you've got a look at both of those next to each other. If you take a look at the matte shades that are in the Nude Light palette, you can see that a lot of them do seem to match up to some of the mattes in the new Nude palette. Next up, I'll do a side-by-side next to the Nude Medium palette. So here's a look next to the Nude Medium palette. You might be able to see that the Nude Medium palette is definitely a lot warmer. Nothing in the new Nude palette quite leans that orangey or coppery. And then finally, we'll do a side-by-side next to the Nude Rich palette. I would say this one is probably second closest in terms of the amount of shades you might see that are sort of overlapped, just because the Nude Rich palette definitely has that berry twist that the new Nude palette also has, but I don't feel like any of the colors are exact. You might have some similar ideas though. And I mean, at the end of the day, when you're blending shadow on your eye, if one color is slightly more purple and the other color is slightly more pink, sure, in a concentrated swatch you'll be able to tell, but typically wearing it in an eye look is probably not going to make the biggest difference. So basically what all of that means is if you were looking into the new Nude eyeshadow palette just because you liked the color scheme, not necessarily because you were looking for any of these different textures, because the textures of shadows that are in here they're different. But if you liked the pinky, plummy, neutral color scheme of this, but you didn't want to commit the money for this whole palette, or maybe you just don't want this many extra eyeshadows, I would tell you to look into the Nude Light or the Nude Rich, just depending on which specific shade palette you preferred. Because yeah, between the two of these, I feel like you're getting a very, very similar color palette. Alrighty guys, wrapping up this video with a few housekeeping items. Just to let y'all know, these palettes are all made in China, which is not where Huda's larger palettes are made. The larger palettes are made in Italy. These smaller palettes are made in China. Different factory, different formulas. So just because you liked the formula that's in these bigger palettes, this is different. Just keep that in mind. For it being a made in China product, I do feel like the price point of $29 is maybe a little high. And just to clarify, the reason I say that is because other brands that have their palettes made in China, like Juvia's Place, Morphe, etc., those palettes are a really, really good budget option, because when you make things overseas in China, it's much less expensive. So again, $29 can get you 9 Huda eyeshadows made in China, or can get you like 35 Morphe eyeshadows also made in China. Do we get where I'm coming from? Anyways, in terms of the amount of product you're getting in these palettes, each of these pans in here holds 1.1 grams of product. That means that you're getting 9.9 grams of product total in each palette. That means that you're paying $2.93 per gram for the shadows in this palette, which again, on the whole, a super fair price per gram, but most made in China eyeshadow palettes tend to be around $1 and change per gram, and this one is almost $3 a gram. Just something to keep in mind. At the end of the day, the price per gram only matters if you're actually going to use up the shadows in the palette, but I still like to do it because I like to keep you guys informed, and that way you guys can know and make your own informed financial decision on whether or not this is a good purchase for you. But yeah, on the whole, I'm not mad about these at all. These are really, really good palettes. Not mad to have this palette, not mad to have more Huda nudes. I think they're all fantastic. So there we have it. That wraps up my review on the new Huda Beauty Nude Obsessions Light, Medium, and Rich palettes. Thank you guys so much for watching and supporting. I really, really appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe if you liked it. Make sure to give it a thumbs up so I know that I need to be doing more reviews like this. But yeah, that is pretty much everything. I will talk to you guys in my next video very soon. I'll see you then. Bye.